And Canada is going to be the front line of the defense of a new vision of the world, a vision of decency, a vision of diversity, a vision of equity, a vision of inclusion, because we are true north, strong and free. Elbows up, my friends. Elbows up. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Canada. Yeah. Here we go.
Charlie Angus, the amazing leader of the resistance story.
Elbows up. Elbows up. Elbows up. Elbows up. Yes, indeed. Here we are. Wow. I needed this. You've been telling me when you came in the door how you needed to see me. No, I needed to see you. I did. From the minute the darkness descended on our world, I knew that Alberta and the people of Alberta would be strong as fuck for our country, right? I need to see you stand up now. I want to see the Canadian flag, and I want you to send a message to everyone in Canada that the front line is here, and we will hold the line, right? We're going to hold the line. Absolutely, because you know what? There may be quislings, and there may be traitors, but we know who they are. And your job is to make sure those quislings and traitors don't get any more ground in this country. That's why I'm here. But to be here on Treaty 6 land at this time, to be here in St. Basil's in the heart of Edmonton's proud Ukrainian community at this time, this is significant. This is significant because these are the shared bonds that make us a nation that cannot be beaten or broken. And we think of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine who are on the front lines right now fighting fascism. Ukraine is the front line and Canada is the other front line, and we have to hold the line. Right? We'll hold the line. And I know that people are frightened. It's okay. Do you, like me, reach for your phone before your eyes are even open and just think, what happened overnight? Well, I'm here to say, stop doom scrolling. That criminal is going to do what that criminal is going to do, but we are going to do what we are going to do. Right? So we are in a world of darkness right now. We cannot pussyfoot around it. I need each of you to be a candle in the darkness so that other people see that you're willing to stand up. And when you're willing to stand up, they won't be afraid to stand up. And that's what this is about. This isn't a, let's all pat ourselves on the back and feel great about being Canadian. We are in the fight of our lives. And it's a fight that I never thought I would see. But fascism is on the march. The rule of law is being erased. People are being snatched off the streets in the United States right now. Donald Trump is shaking down law firms and making them work for him for free. And they're bending and kissing the gangster's ring. So let me ask you a theoretical question. Would the people of Alberta ever, in a million years, bend down and kiss a gangster's ring? Would that be even possible? Absolutely. That's why I'm here. And I want to tell you a bit about how I ended up in this journey that we're on. It's not about me. Because the resistance didn't start with leaders. It started with you. It started with you waking up and saying, I am not going to let my country be taken away from me. Yes. And when you saw the quisling traitor go down to Mar-a-Lago to hang out with Kevin O'Leary. And you said, she doesn't represent us. She doesn't. And you knew you had to do something. That's how the resistance began. We saw the absolute failure of democracy when a convicted predator, felon, sexual weirdo took control of the White House. And I knew then that we were now in the time of monsters. I couldn't think of anything at that moment but the Antonio Gramsci line, which I've never studied philosophy, so I don't know why I knew Antonio Gramsci's line, but it was in my head. That a new world is struggling to be born. But we are in the time of monsters, and this is the time of the monsters. And once we know that, we can start taking steps. So what are the steps to be taken? So, the morning after the Trump election, I just lay in bed. And I decided I was going to give myself a break from social media. I didn't want to think about it. And at 8:30 in the morning, I got a phone call from my wife back in Northern Ontario, and she's an Albertan. And I live in terror of that woman. And she said to me, "You have not posted anything yet, why not?" This after accusing me of having married Facebook. And I said, "I don't know what to say." She said, "I don't care what you say, you speak up, because other people don't know what to say, and they need someone to start speaking." Isn't that how it started? I work for her, yes. And that first post, I was overwhelmed with responses. And I suddenly realized that I wasn't alone, and we weren't alone. And that's how the resistance began. It begins when we start moving out of our fear and reaching out, because we don't know what else to do, so we start reaching out. And then he said that we didn't have a right to have a country. Shame. Yeah. That we weren't even a real country. Shame. And then, have I mentioned I went to see the legislature this morning? I was hoping to meet Danielle Smith. I'm just glad she hasn't put up the stars and bars and the Confederate rebel flag on the legislature yet, but I brought a ladder because I was going to take it down if she had. Not here, no way. But Danielle is off again in these, they have these meetings that the public's not invited to. What's that? With Maga. Meeting with the guy who planned the tariff war that's out to destroy our jobs and our economy and our family, and she was hanging out with him. When she should have been here defending the people of Alberta who are being hammered by the tariffs. And we've never seen her do that. So I showed up to see Danielle. She wasn't there. But I'm not surprised, because you're here. And you're the front line of resistance. Right? And it has been now, a week? Just over a week since Donald Trump announced his brilliant plan to destroy the world's economy. Planned by one of the guys Danielle Smith was hanging out with, right? And he called it Liberation Day. What a desecration of a powerful word. But this is what they do. This is the Canada is broken disinformation rage machine of the Polyev gang, of the Maple Maga, of trying to read into our brains and make us think we don't belong with one another. And then to call it something that it is the opposite. Liberation is a powerful word. It's a sacred word. Liberation was when the children of Israel were freed from slavery. That was liberation. Liberation is Juneteenth, when the black community were freed finally, and they celebrated because they know what liberation means. That's right. Exactly. And I had the great honor to be in France on Liberation Day, June 6th, D-Day. They know what liberation means. It's a powerful thing. And I never really understood what it meant till I stood there at Juno Beach and saw the graves. It's a powerful thing. Because you realize our young people in a country of 11 million people went over to free other people from fascist tyranny. Not for any self-benefit, but to free people they didn't know. And when we landed on Juno Beach, we didn't get to celebrate. There was a lot of hard fighting. And at Bény-sur-Mer, the graves are June 6th, Winnipeg, 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 Regina, 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 Montreal, Montreal. They fought and they died and they're buried side by side. And I walked that graveyard, seeing town after town being put into the meat grinder to fight fascism. And then I started seeing young men from my own towns, Kirkland Lake, Matheson, Timmins, lying there from the days that they died on the battlefield. And every 15 minutes, from Juno Beach all the way through the Netherlands, Canadians lie. And I thought of this because, I was at the Brussels NATO meetings. I went there to be reassured. I was sure when I went to Brussels that the Maga Republicans who were there would get scolded by Germany. You can't pick on a NATO ally. Nope. I thought France would say something. I thought UK would say something. And they were all tiptoeing around the Republican mob that were there, who were just lording over everybody as they were selling the people of Ukraine out at the same time. Shame. And this guy gets up. Now, these things are very formal. I don't know why they let me go. But these things are very formal. And this guy, I don't know, he's some secretary general or something. I don't know what the frick. But he's trying to placate the Americans. And he says, in Canada, you have to carry your weight. Oh, yeah. So I stood up. Yeah. I stood up. And I just said, whoa. My wife's uncle, Patrick Johnson, Edmonton, Alberta, died crossing the Leopold Canal. He's buried 15 minutes down the road, and you're going to tell us we're going to carry our weight? Don't you ever tell Canada to carry its weight when it comes to fighting fascists. That's who we are. That's our history. And we will do it again. Because that's the fight that's before us. So Donald Trump calling it Liberation Day. No. And now he's already panicking. But we have to hold the line. I would like to think that this is all just a bad dream. I'd like to be a Democrat sometimes. No, I wouldn't. I was listening to this Democrat the other day on the radio. He was somebody important. He had a name and he'd done all this stuff. And he was talking about the midterms and the pendulum swing. It's like a pendulum swing. You have destroyed the rule of law in your country and you're seizing people off the streets and putting them in illegal detention centers and deporting them and making these grotesque selfies of people in overcrowded El Salvadorian prisons, and you think that it's just a pendulum swing? That is the disappearance of the rule of law. So no, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a Canadian, because Canadians are in the front line of the fight against fascism. That's where we are right now. And I'm not saying that to boast. But the rest of the world is watching us. The rest of the world is watching because Donald Trump thought we were an easy mark. Well, guess what? Elbows up. Yeah. Elbows up. But I was leading into this. I was frightened because for a long time we've been sleepwalking as a nation. We've been disconnected from each other. We've been allowing the voices of disinformation and rage and the Danielle Smiths and the Pierre Poilievres to pick apart our nation. We gave our flag what was stolen from us by conspiracy haters who hung our flag upside down and paraded it through the streets. We're taking our flag and putting it back right side up. Right side up. That's our flag. It's not the haters' flag. Right? But there's a difference about why we can raise the flag. Because we are a nation that has come to understand that we have done some very bad and terrible things. We are on a journey of understanding that there can be no resistance without reconciliation. Right? That the crimes committed in the residential schools have to be atoned for. And we cannot change what happened before, but we can change where we're going, right? Because the fundamental relationship from the beginning, which brings us back right here to St. Basil's, was the settler-indigenous relationship. And let's face it, our side didn't keep our part of the bargain at all. But where we're at now is the decision of where we're going to be. 150 years from now, that relationship will still be there. And no criminal, fascist, gangster, and his Mussolini friends are going to come in and decide what our relationship on our land, on our resources, is going to be decided. We will decide that future because we will decide that together. Because that's the journey we're on. Because we know being proud isn't being jingoistic. Being proud is that we're willing to defend our democracy and our way of life. Because there's things that those incel losers hate. You know, woke. Like woke. I'm woke. Are you woke? Yeah. We were sleepwalking and we woke up. So yeah, damn right, we're woke. We're ready now. We're wide awake. We're woke. And Antifa. I love that. You know, the first time I was called Antifa, I had to call my daughter and say, I've just been accused of being an Antifa. What's an Antifa? She said, anti-fascist. I said, well, isn't that a good thing? Yeah. But to the conspiracy haters, it's not, because they are the promoters of fascism. So am I Antifa? I come from a long line of Antifa. My uncles kicked Nazi ass all over Europe. And they did it so that we wouldn't have to face the threats that we're facing today. So, you know, Danielle Smith's down there trying to cut a deal for oil. Leaving Alberta's ag community high and dry, leaving your tech community high and dry, leaving small businesses getting hammered. You know, Donald Trump thinks he'll just take it, like he says he's going to take the water, like he's going to take the critical minerals. And then he says there's nothing else he wants from us. There's something he wants to take from us that's more valuable than all the gold, all the oil, all the diamonds in this country. It's our decency, right? They cannot stand that on the largest unguarded border in the world, there's a country that lives by the rule of law. A country that lives by a term that they hate more than anything, DEI. Diversity, equity, inclusion. That's what defines us, and that's what we're going to defend, and they will not take that from us. I can tell you, I've talked to organizations working with youth who do cross North America events who've been told they have to change the language here in Canada to say nothing about inclusivity, because it'll affect possible American funding. I've talked to people from universities in Canada who, when they're holding talks, have taken the words climate out of it. In Canada, because they don't want to offend the fascists south of the border. Well, I want to offend the fascists south of the border. I want you to offend the fascists south of the border. Because this is what the fight is, my friends. It is the fight for a nation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is our nation, and we will defend it. We will defend it to the last. So I'm asking you to do a few things. You know, April 9th was the anniversary of the execution of Pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of the few Germans who stood up. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer had said just before he died that it wasn't just enough for us to bandage the victims who were being crushed under the fascist wheel. We had to stick a spoke in the wheel of oppression and stop it. That's what our job today is. Because if we don't stop it now, we will be on the same front line that Ukraine is. We have to hold it so that our young people don't have to pay the sacrifice that our great uncles and grandfathers paid. It's up to us to keep the line of freedom, to hold the line. Because you know what's amazing about Donald Trump and his gang? They get spooked. Didn't they get spooked? We stood up to them. Pete Navarro. Okay, and I'm just going to say, you can hold it against me, but I do agree with Elon Musk on one thing. He called Pete Navarro a total moron, right? So the fascist is now calling the moron a moron. I love when Maga fights. But Pete Navarro came out and he said, hey, Canada, tone down the rhetoric. What? We haven't even started. He's like, all that hockey stuff. It's like, we haven't even got to the point where we pull the jersey over your head. We haven't even done elbows up yet, and we haven't even sent out the women's team. And when that happens, dude, you're going to be really, 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 really sorry. So no, we're not going to tone down the rhetoric. I can't promise you that this is going to go away. I can't promise you that people aren't going to get hurt. And I can't promise you that people aren't going to suffer. But I can promise you that we will be standing true, north, strong, and free at the end of the day, right? We will still be Canada no matter what they do. So keep the boycott strong. I know you, I don't even have to tell you, but I'm just repeating the importance so you can tell your neighbors. The boycott can't waver at all. We have to keep it strong. So that's the first thing I need you to do. The second thing is, do not let them us be divided from each other. Right? That's what Daniel Smith and Premier Moe have been doing. That's what Preston Manning is doing. Who, in the moment when a nation is under threat from a foreign fascist power, starts talking about breaking up the country? Right? Shame. Them and their straw army. You know? So don't let us get divided from each other. Quebec is strong. The Maritimes are strong. The North are strong. The West is strong. We are strong together. And again, we are strong when we're respecting that we are on Indigenous lands, and we are going to do this with respect, because that's how we're going to get through this. So don't ever let us be divided, and speak up, speak loudly, and let the world know where Alberta stands when it comes to defending who we are as a nation. I need you to do that. And I know you're going to do that. I don't fear Donald Trump. I don't. He's just a decrepit, creepy predator. He might have fooled some people there, but he doesn't fool us. And he's now come against Canada. And what do we have? We have the Juno Beach gene in us. Once the fight starts, we don't stop that fight till the job is done. So Donald, it doesn't matter how long you go, I'm not afraid of you because I know who's with us. But what I fear more is Maga Maple. We cannot let Pierre Poilievre and the politics of disinformation and rage and Canada is broken ever get in. I've sat across from them in the House of Commons. I have sat across from Conservatives my whole life. There are many Conservatives that I know that I may not agree with on many, but I respect. But I do not respect what I see with the hate slogans and the disinformation and the refusal to even disassociate himself from the likes of Alex Jones. You know, that's who he is. And I've never actually heard him say that he had a problem with Daniel Smith threatening to break up our country. He's never said that either. We cannot let Maga Maple win. And that's why I'm in Edmonton. Because the front line of the fight in the West to stop Conservatives is here in Edmonton. Right? But you are not going to achieve anything unless we elect new Democrats here in Edmonton. Because we are the path for stopping Maga Maple. We are always the path. So I'm asking you to support your candidates here. I need you to do that work. Will you do that work? Of course you'll do that work. So that's the task before us. And I want to say at the end of the day, what a great honor it is to be with you. Because there's a Canada that lives in my mind. It was a Canada I wasn't sure existed after a while of hearing all the disinformation and the rage. But I knew it was out there. It was the Canada that I fell in love with when I was first 18 years old. The first time I came out to Alberta and saw the sky. Okay, we got sky in Ontario, but we don't have sky. Especially when I lived in downtown Toronto. I was like frightened to get off the airplane. But everywhere I went and everywhere I go, I come across the same sense of welcome. The same sense that I belong here. This is my home. You have made me belong here. And I feel that across this country. We belong with each other. This is what makes us Canadian. This is why we can never be defeated. Because there's more of them, way more of them, but they are divided and they're fighting and they're frightened and we are unified. And I'll take the odds of being with a unified Canada any day of the week, anytime. That's a fight that you could not stop us ever. And finally, we do have friends in other countries who are still trying to fight fascism and fight for the rule of law. And our friends in America have a much tougher fight right now because they have to bring back their democracy. They have to pull the people out who are being kidnapped. They have to stand up against fascism. And in Canada, always remember, it's a lot easier to stand up to fascism at the beginning than when it's entrenched. So that's our job, right? So I want to end on this. We are a nation that has been put on the front line for this moment. The world is watching Canada. We didn't ask for this fight, but they brought it to us. And we will not give in till the fight is done. And it's not just that he stops ridiculing and threatening us. We will not stop until the rule of law is maintained and restored, and the rule of international law is restored, and that people in Gaza and people in Ukraine and people everywhere are able to live without the gangster threats, because this is the age of monsters, this is the age of gangsters, and Canada is going to be the front line of the defense of a new vision of the world, a vision of decency, a vision of diversity, a vision of equity, a vision of inclusion, because we are true north, strong and free. Elbows up, my friends, elbows up. Thank you. Thank you, Canada. Thank you, Alberta. Remember the words that it's our home on native land. Right? Oh, Canada, our home on native land. true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you, Canada. Slava Ukraine. Thanks so much. Thank you.